And welcome back to another video with Mr. Hagen. And on this video, we're going to look at the difference between the idea of quantity supplied and supply. So we already looked at this in a previous video on the demand side. We're now going to look at this on the supply side. What is the difference between the idea of quantity supplied and the idea of supply? So let's go ahead and take a look at it. So first we're going to take a look at the graph on the left. So let's label everything. So this is going to be the price of some good, and this is going to be the quantity of some good on the horizontal axis. And then we have our supply curve. And so we're going to say that there's some price for the good, and we'll just call that price P1, and then we come across to where we hit the supply curve and come down. And we're going to call that the quantity. We'll call that Q1. And let's say that for some reason, I don't know what the reason is, we'll talk about that on a future podcast, but let's say for some reason that the price of the good goes up. So the price currently is P1, and let's say that the price is going to increase. So what happens if the price increases? Well, simply on the vertical axis, we would say there's some higher price, P2, and then we would come across to where we hit the supply curve and come down, and we have some new higher quantity, call it Q2. So what's going on here? Why is this the case? Well, when you get an increase in the price of the good from P1 to P2, that's going to cause people to want to produce the good. The more they get paid for producing the good, the more of the good they're willing to produce. So when the price goes up from P1 to P2, the quantity of the good that producers are willing to bring to market will go up from Q1 to Q2. And that is a movement along the supply curve. So we started here where the price was P1 and the quantity was Q1. And when the price went up, we moved along the supply curve. Right here along the supply curve, the price goes up to P2. And when the price is P2, producers are willing to bring Q2 units to market. So that's a movement along the supply curve. So whenever that's the case, we say that that's a change in the quantity supplied. How do we know that it's a change in the quantity supplied? Well, there's two ways that we know it's a change in the quantity supplied. The first is that there was a change in the price. So there was a change in the price of the good. In our example that we just did, the price of the good went up. So it was a change in the price. A change in the price causes what? A change in the price causes an increase, in our example, an increase in the price caused an increase in the quantity supplied. All right? So we could go back here. I said this was a change in, right? But we could change that, and we could say that would be, sorry about that, we could say that this was, instead of calling this a change in the price, we could say what really happened in our example is we had an increase in the price. So the increase in the price caused an increase in the quantity supplied. The way that we know that it's quantity supplied is because the price changed. Furthermore, we know it's a change in the price another way, and that is that we moved along the curve. So we moved along the curve. That's the second way. The second way that we know that it was a change in the quantity supplied. So two ways that we know that it's a change in the quantity supplied. First, there was a change in the price. And secondly, we moved along the supply curve. All right? That's how we know. That's called quantity supplied. Now, what then happens when we want to use the word supply? Go to the second graph. And let's put price on the vertical axis, quantity on the horizontal axis, and then here's our supply curve. And let's start at some price P1, just like we did before. So here we are at price P1. And at a price of P1, the quantity is going to be, let's say, Q1. So here we are at P1, Q1, and let's say for some reason, I don't know, maybe there's more status associated with the job, something like that. For some reason other than the price of the good, producers want to bring more of it to market. Producers are willing to produce more of the good, even though the price of the good has not changed. So in that case, we have to draw a whole new supply curve. So the supply curve would shift out to the right, and we would get a new supply curve. Call that S2. Now the price didn't change. We're still at a price of P1, but at that price P1, we have to come across and we have to mark on the new supply curve that producers are now willing to produce Q2 units of the good. Now what's really important here is that the price did not change. For some reason other than the price, producers are willing to produce more of the good than they were willing to produce before. And we show that with a shift in the supply curve. We have a whole new supply curve. So that is called a change in supply. How do we know it was a change in supply? Two ways that we know it was a change in supply. One is the price did not change. So the price remained constant. So there was no change in the price. The second way that we know that it's a change in supply is that there was a shift in the curve. So we can see on the graph, there was a shift in the curve. Those are the two ways that we know. So let's summarize what we just did. Anytime you get a change in the price of the good and move along the curve, that's called a change in the quantity supplied. Anytime that the price does not change, but the supply curve shifts, then that is called a change in supply. So over here, the change in the quantity is called a change in the quantity supplied. And over here, the change in the quantity is called a change in supply. Hope that helps you understand the difference between quantity supplied and supply. This has been Mr. Hagan, and we'll see you on the next podcast.